Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Minnesota Learning Commons webinar this afternoon. Our topic this afternoon is mindfulness practices for educators. My name is Mary Messicomer. I am the managing administrator for the Minnesota Learning Commons, which is a partnership between the Department of Education and K-12 education, the University of Minnesota, and Minnesota State colleges and universities. So I am delighted to welcome you here today. Our speaker this afternoon is Dr. Jennifer Clifton, and Dr. Clifton does amazing work in the area of mindfulness, calmness practice, and self-care. And so we thought this would be a great topic for this time of year, especially as we've all been going through fall with COVID-19 in education and in our lives. So with that, I am going to go ahead and turn it over to Jennifer. I will just ask you to keep your mics on mute if you wouldn't mind. Jennifer will have some points in time where she asks you to participate. We will probably also use the chat feature in Cisco WebEx. And if you look at the bottom of your screen to the right, you should see that little cartoon kind of conversation bubble, which turns on the chat or brings the chat into your view. So with that, I am going to turn this over to Dr. Clifton. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. I always love it when I'm introduced and somebody uses the term doctor, because I forget that I know what I'm talking about most days. Seriously, I forget that there's letters behind my name. And you see all my books behind me. There's no question that I've done the research on, my dissertation is on the origins of teacher well-being. So you'll hear more about my story, how I come to this work. If you joined me earlier, you heard me talking about the fact that, like, in my home right now, I'm homeschooling 3 daughters. I have a 13-year-old and twin 12-year-olds. So again, a 13-year-old, twin 12-year-olds. So when I talk to you about burnout, I know it both as a teacher, having been a teacher for 27 years, primarily 8th grade English. I'm now an administrator at the University of Minnesota Multiple Pathways to Teaching Grow Your Own program. So I oversee a 2-year program where we recruit teachers of color who are already working in schools who want to get their licensure in 2 years. So I oversee that program, I coordinate it, and I teach within it. So I have been a teacher educator, and a mother for a long time. So when I talk to you about mental health, emotional health, spiritual health, and when I say that mindfulness saved my life, I don't mean that to sound like overly dramatic. When my babies were born, and I had 3 babies in 2 years, and I was told I couldn't have kids, in my first year of doctoral work, my life just totally spun out of control. Everything that I had mapped out for what I thought was going to happen in my life turned upside down. And postpartum depression is very real. So when I talk to you about mindfulness and mental health, I want you to know that, yes, I've got those letters behind my name. I've got a bunch of books behind me. I can tell you all of the neuroscience, not all of it. I can tell you a lot of the neuroscience behind some of the practices we're going to talk about and engage here in this next hour. Because my hope is you leave this hour feeling better, feeling lighter. That's my first intention. My second intention is that you leave with just 2 or 3 or just one thing you can do to just really practice directing your full attention to yourself and why that's so critical. So I've done what I call the lived experience work of knowing what it feels like to be chronically burnt out, and knowing what it feels like to use simple practices rooted in the core components of mindfulness that we're going to learn in the next hour to really save my sanity. And so I like to kind of preface that's an important part of my work, is just my beingness as a mother. And as a teacher for over 25 years. So I'm going to share my screen. Let's see here. And I'm going to hit present and see how this looks. But how many of you, so this is the first thing we want to remember, right? If you feel this way, someone's telling you to calm down and you're just like, yes, this is supposed to be funny on purpose. And here's why. when we talk about mindfulness for teachers, the first step is to not take everything so seriously. This is all too serious to take seriously. If we can't find lightness and perspective and positivity around the stress, and Bettina Love talks about it. This is one of my most favorite books. It's called We Want to Do More Than Survive. Bettina Love talks about social justice work. And in it, she says, as socially just teachers, we have to be well. Our well-being is the source of social justice work. So not only do we have COVID operating on our bodies as educators, we also have this renewed call for social justice that requires well-being, because just being all right will both kill us and it won't allow us to be present for people and for our students in ways that we are now being called to be. So if your well-being and mindfulness helps get us there is just so profoundly critical. So I want to start with this beautiful picture. Just take a look at it. Just to kind of steep you in a little bit about why I do this work is this. I've been a teacher for a long time, a middle school teacher in the public school setting and a mother. And I know what happens when stress corrodes my connection with myself. Stress is a corrosive agent that's already in our profession. Teaching is already emotionally provocative in and of itself. And very little do we ever teach new teachers or even in-service teachers how to protect themselves from the mental, emotional, and spiritual stressors of the profession. And that's what we're going to talk about today, right? We learn a lot about pedagogy. We learn about instruction. We learn about behavior, but no one ever says, okay, if you are all a hot mess up here in your mind and in your body, and you step in front of kids and you expect them to follow the rules and follow all of your behavioral strategies, but they can feel that you're a hot mess and you're not in control, they mirror to us. So take a look at this image. This was an image drawn by a teacher who is an artist friend of mine who has done, you guys are getting about 60 minutes of a 20-hour training that I do. And so you're getting a beautiful taste of that. Ginger had done my training, and when she was in this work that we are engaging, I was looking over her shoulder and she was sketching stuff. And I've hired her now. She works for and provides these illustrations when I talk about these big concepts so that we can really see how critical this is. So this is why we're doing what we're doing, right? Is we have to keep remembering that our mental, emotional, and spiritual health, and I'll talk about that word spiritual, that just essentially means your connection to you, right? It doesn't have any religious connotation. Many people use their religion as a source of spiritual connection. But what I'm talking about when I say spiritual health is this. What is that one thing? And go ahead and put it in the chat. What is that one thing you do that when you do it, you forget that, time stands still. You forget to eat. You look up and you're just like, oh my gosh, where did all the time go? Go ahead and stick that in the chat. What is that thing for you? Mary has writing. Thank you, Mary. Where when you do it, you feel so immersed. Thank you, Mickey. Reading. Great. Good. Thank you. John Larson. Trail prep. Yeah, sitting by the water for sure. Brooke, thank you. Yep. Katie, you got it. Exercising. Awesome. Thank you, Queen. Painting. Yep. Awesome. Keep populating that. So here's what I want to remind teachers, and this is what I feel so called to do and say is who we are. We teach who we are. That's Parker Palmer's quote. That isn't mine. We teach who we are. So that very thing you're listing right now, everybody, Lori, gardening, thank you. It is your professional responsibility to do that as much as possible. If we're going to really, really commit to our well-being, we have to understand how our beingness, better for worse, actually impacts our teaching. And we have to remember that since teaching is such a heart-centered profession, and we'll talk about your calling here in just a minute and why that's so sacred, who you are matters. And I just remember, and so this picture really speaks to that. Take a look at the teacher on the left-hand side, whose waves and presence, right, is calm, and there's a heart-centeredness, versus the teacher on the right, who's got their hand up. And so Ginger was like, Jen, this is what I feel like when I take these trainings and I realize the power of mindfulness and mindful awareness. that my students sync up to who I am and how I am on the inside. And actuality, our greatest source of influence, everybody, as teachers, is through our presence. Remember, our kids, our students, they remember how we made them feel more than they remember what we do or say, right? So this just, I'm just naming this for us to remind ourselves of the huge commitment our spiritual, mental, and emotional health has. So that when we're not scheduling time in our day to take care of our basic psychological, physical, and emotional housekeeping, it actually negatively impedes our capacity to be effective, influential educators. So it's all connected. So here's what I like to say. So here's the baby. You're supposed to laugh again. You're supposed to smile. Okay, thank you. Thank you for the 4 people I see on my screen. If you don't believe me about the mirroring impact, and we know this from the neuroscience, okay? P.S. I'm going to get woo-woo. I often say a lipstick wearing hippie, tree hugging hippie. But you know what? I know the neuroscience behind all of this, and we're going to practice in just a minute because it isn't enough to talk about mindfulness. I want you to be mindful. We're going to practice some mindfulness here just very soon. But I want to just set the stage to say this. That mirroring between your internal state, for better or for worse, and then the students that you come in contact with, even through the ethers, even in an online environment, they feel you. I knew this to be true when, if you can imagine, these are my babies. This is when the twins, and I don't remember who's who. I think Gabby's on the left. She's crying the hardest. That makes sense. Izzy's on the right. Chloe's in the middle. If you could have turned this camera around, you would have seen me probably in leopard. I do love leopard, but I was also crying. I'm not kidding. Like these girls, this picture is meant to be humorous now, but there's no question, you guys, that this is mirroring how I felt as a mother at this time. Anybody got twins? Because if you do, you know that twins don't sleep at the same time. There is no guarantee when you are nursing 2 babies and trying to get them to sleep through the night, they don't fall asleep at the same time. No, they tag team. You stay up until I'll fall asleep. And then Chloe's up at 7 a.m. So this is what my children looked and felt like when I was really drowning in motherhood. And this is how a lot of teachers feel as well. And the reason why this work is so important to me is because you're my tribe, you're teachers, and I love you dearly. And we don't get trained in this, and we don't share our stories enough to know that we all struggle and that there is a way out. There are things we can do. But I remember when little Gabby, when she was just a baby, and I was so disconnected with my mind, my body, and my spirit, and I was so burnt out, when I would bring Gabby to my chest to comfort her, she would scream louder. And that's when it hit me. I was like, oh my gosh, I cannot fake it in front of my kids. They know when I'm not well, right? And so do our students. And so a lot of the times we just have to remember that here's what we're here to do, everybody. In the next however many minutes we have left, we're going to talk about the 3 core components of mindfulness. You're going to learn, because mindfulness, by the way, it's a made up word and we see it all over the place. Sometimes we don't even know what we're talking about when we say mindfulness. So when you leave here, you're going to know what are the 3 core components of mindfulness and how can I use mindfulness to both maintain my sanity and my mental health and also metabolize stress. So here's what I learned when I wrote my dissertation, everybody. The teachers in my study did this curriculum for 20 hours. And then I interviewed and worked with them and I said, what are the origins of teacher well-being? Now that you know this work, tell me what worked best. What did you discover about what it means to be well as a teacher in the middle of the stress, right? And Bettina Love says this too. I keep pulling in Bettina because I'm really obsessed with her social justice work because it's all so intersected. But what she says is, we're attempting to find our humanity in the middle of the pain and in the struggle. We can't stop the stress, nor do we want to. So here's what teachers said over and over, everybody. It was all about maintaining your mental health and your spiritual health. So like when I asked you, what was that one thing you did that stays connected to you? That's part of your maintenance system. What I'd like you to write down right now on a piece of paper is this. What is one thing you already do well? Because you do. What is one thing you are already engaging in on almost a daily, if not, every other day basis that helps you to really maintain your spiritual immunity, your physical immunity, right? What's one thing you are already doing to just maintain kind of, it's like an immunization for your mind, spirit, body to stay healthy? Because I mean, also in a global pandemic, you guys, we'll talk about why it's so critical to metabolize stress for your spirit and your emotions. But I mean, stress is one of the biggest corroders of our immune system. And we'll talk about why. So go ahead and populate the chat. This is also why, Mary, I love that you bring us all together like this, because as a collective, we have to inspire people. We have to inspire one another. So in the chat, please jot down, what is one thing you are already doing that is part of your critical maintenance system, right? It's the stuff that you need to do to just stay above water. Because it's really hard, just like I had my girls immunized when they were babies. I want them to be protected going into, right, the world, so that when they get sick, it doesn't hurt as bad, or it doesn't take them down. So what do you do? Exercise daily. Yes, thank you, Ali. I hope I said that correct. Yes, connecting with your friends. Perfect. Yep. You make your bed in the morning, Andrea. I know there's something that's so satisfying about that. Good. Good. Keep writing down. What are you all? Yes, reviewing your personal goals. Thank you, Christina. Yes. Yep. Yep. Good. Having these natural breaks. Good. What are you already doing to maintain? Because I'm going to talk to you today about how do you metabolize stress through the core components of mindfulness, because stress is inevitable. And here's what we know about teacher well-being. It's all about maintaining and metabolizing. So how are you creating your day so that you are staying above water? You've got your routines and your rituals that are just sacred. Drinking your water, having your body breaks, walking for 30 minutes a day, sitting with your coffee or your tea in the morning before the craziness of the day starts, right? What are you doing to maintain? And then we're going to talk about, well, then how do you metabolize, right? How do you metabolize the stressors? So that maintenance ritual is critical. Another thing I'd like to do in our time together is offer up to you, just again, lots of strategies just so that you can choose from a couple of them. One of the best ways to maintain your health, your well-being, is to what I call do bookends on your day. Bookend your morning and bookend your night with 5 minutes. 5-minute bookends. When you wake up in the morning, and we're going to do an experience here in just a moment called the body scan. When you wake up in the morning, just for 5 minutes, you can lie in bed unless you find yourself falling asleep again, or sit up in bed and just do a body scan, feel your body, and then check in with yourself. And what we'll do is in those initial 5 minutes of the morning, I call it pre-paving. When I wake up in the morning, I use the power of my imagination to work for me and not against me. And I pre-pave my day. I'm like, here's how I want my day to go. Now, that's not me having expectation as much as me using the power of we're going to talk about intention here in just a moment. And then at the end of my day, I don't know about for you, but for me and lots of teachers I worked with, that's what they said, that's their biggest worry window, is the moment their head hits the pillow, their mind goes through what they didn't get done that day and what they're already behind on by tomorrow. And what I say is, well, the way that we shift that is we make sure that when our head hits the pillow at night, we're not engaging a worry window, but instead we're again scanning the body and we're reconnecting with all the things we did that day that were in alignment with what felt good to us, with our values. So those are just really simple practices to maintain. And then we're going to talk about, okay, great, Jen. So I've got my maintenance system, but what do I do with all of this dense, heavy stress that just like keeps corroding my daily maintenance system? So as we do that, let's walk into an activity here, a reflection. I want to keep grounding us in what I'm talking about when I say and use the term mindfulness. You will learn, and we're going to talk about the 3 core components of mindfulness, but I just want you to see here kind of a grounding definition that I have. And it really is all about mindfulness being this capacity to be fully aware of all that one experiences, both inside yourself, right? So when you do those bookending, that 5 minutes in the morning and 5 minutes at night, that's you going into your mind and body and giving yourself just an ounce of the attention you give everybody else all day long. But mindfulness is also, how do we pay attention to what's happening, not just in us, but around us, to the people, the natural world, and our surroundings, and the events. So as we talk about mindfulness for the rest of our time, remember that it's this perpetual in and out. How am I doing on the inside? How am I doing on the outside? And when I work with teachers, I say this, it's assessment. It's formative assessment. We are constantly assessing our students. Where are people at? How are they doing? What do I need? Very rarely do we ever stop and do that internal formative assessment. Where am I at? How am I doing? What do I need? So the very first, or a core capacity, let me see here, everybody. Oh, sorry, it's going slow. One of the 3 core elements of mindfulness is what we call intention. So intention is so critical to mindfulness for a couple reasons. Number one, intention is all about knowing where the power of your thoughts are going. And intention is what you intend for the day or the afternoon. For right now, let's do this. We're at time marker of 3:25. We're doing great on time. For the next, 35 minutes, what's your intention? Just let it, just sit with it for a second. Like, why are you here? Why did you join this webinar? There are so many other places right now where you could choose to gift your attention. And so the question is this, what is your intention? Because here's the thing, you guys, without an intention, this is where teachers say they feel most corroded and that the profession becomes corrosive. Here's why. Teachers report feeling time-starved, perpetually time-starved, and that the to-do list is never ending, and that their attention is scattered off in 50,000 directions every single day. Well, we do know from the research on burnout that actually is the definition of burnout. Thank you, Lori. The definition of burnout is a slow disintegration of the connection that you have with yourself. So you guys, if you keep giving your attention away all day long and you never stop to slow and settle your body and collect it and put it here, you will burn out. And that sense of disconnect will start to erode your spirit, your emotions, and your mind. Our intentions are where we gather our attention, our energy, and we put it right here and now. And so one of the things that I often say to teachers, or it's a lot easier when I'm in a face-to-face setting, right? But I'm also a professor at the University of Minnesota, and you better believe that when my future teachers walk into my classroom, here's what I say. Our intention right now is to learn. That's why I'm here. That's why we're here. Now I want to know what your intention is. And then what I say is this, please close your device. Please put your phone away. Please don't check email right now. And what I say, and I am saying that to you right now as well, is give yourself the gift of one thing at a time. The whole idea of multitasking is a myth. We lose so much energy in multitasking. We can quite literally only do one thing at a time. So I'm asking you to just give yourself that gift of being fully attentive to this so that you can this is all meant to be self-restorative. So now let's talk about with one of the biggest and most important intentions as a teacher. And I'm hitting my button. There we go. Okay. And that is your calling to teach. Now I want to ground us in this calling, and I'll explain why and why it's connected to this core component of mindfulness. Many teachers say this, Jen, the reason why teaching is so hard is because I care so much. And I'm like, I know. There's a difference between a calling and a job. Marianne Williamson says this. She says a job is an exchange of energy in which you do do material task and someone provides money in exchange. We've all had jobs, nothing wrong with jobs. You're probably craving just a good old job these days where you just can show up, do your work, and not feel so connected to the work. You guys, but here's what we know. A calling, which is what teachers say that this work is, it's an organic field of energy that emerges from the deepest aspect of who you are. So this is what I say about teacher burnout. It's only those who are burning that burn out. It's only those who care that actually burn out. And the reason we do is because we are called. It's a calling. And so now what I invite you to do is this. We're going like 70,000 foot view here on intentions. Stress will corrode our connection to our calling. I don't know about how many of you are already like, I mean, right now, by the way, as I connect with teachers across Hennepin County and do all this work, the mass exodus of teachers into retirement is really killing our profession. We've always had a retention and a recruitment problem, everybody, but now more than ever, teachers are like, I'm out. So the reason why we're coming this big picture here is because you may have had thoughts of wanting to be out and be just like, I can't do this anymore. This calling is too taxing. So let's reorient this plumb line. This is really critical. And what we're doing right now with these little reflective prompts, this is mindfulness. This is you paying attention in a particular way with non-judgment. So right now, come up just on your, you can put it in your on your piece of paper rather. You can just pull it up in your body. But just as a teacher, I am called, and just write down or think about why do you do what you do? What is your primary intention in this heart-centered calling? Again, we're getting a 70,000 foot view of this because everybody, when your attention goes in 50,000 directions all day long, if you do not have a plumb line that brings you back to your why, you will chronically feel like energy is seeping out of your day every single day. And we get so depleted when we don't feel why we're doing what we're doing. So go ahead and now drop it in the chat. You are called. What is your calling as a teacher? Janice, she's just joining the meeting. That's her calling. When I did this, one time I did this and teachers were telling me their names. I'm like, no, not your name. I already know what you're called. What you're calling to lead and serve others. Thank you, Brooke. To help others. Great. Walk alongside. Thank you, Bridget. Again, thank you, Mary, for this community so that we can we're vibing off of each other's positive intentions. Cindy, thank you, to guide others. Yep. To empower readers, show others how, yep. To create an environment where others can excel. Awesome. Thank you. This is your intention, a core aspect of mindfulness, and mindfulness will save you as a teacher. Mindfulness, again, is intention. It's paying attention in a particular way. So you are called. Great. Here's what now, remember when we talked about that your well-being as a teacher is all about maintaining and metabolizing? Well, now I want you to think about this. This is what I discovered in my research. When we talk about the challenges of teaching, we need them. Mindfulness and meditation is all about how do we re-perceive an event so that it's seen as a challenge versus a threat. So I love this idea of teaching as a spiritual practice. And what that means is this. Part of our mental, emotional, and spiritual health practice through mindfulness, everybody, is perspective. And what we know from the research is this. If you put a wider lens on your life and subtract every day that you've experienced as stressful, you will not find yourself with an ideal life. You will find yourself subtracting the experiences that have helped you to grow, the challenges you are most proud of, and the relationships that define you. So here's what I want to offer is this. A core aspect of mindful awareness, right, is seeing things accurately. And so everything that you wrote about in our chat about what you are called to do, yep, and then also what your calling is. I want to shift the perspective a little bit. What if your calling as a teacher is to do all those things? But what if all those things that you guys listed, what if that's your primary purpose, to do that for yourself? What if teaching provides a spiritual practice, I say, that is embedded with customized stressors just for you. Because remember, the stuff that stresses you out doesn't stress me out. And we use mindfulness to metabolize the stress, right? What if the practice of teaching is customized with micro stressors that invite you to go into yourself and pay attention in a new way, rethink thoughts in a new way, feel different emotions that are more in alignment with your values, and then be more kind and compassionate to others? So that is the work of understanding that awareness, which is also the second principle of mindfulness, is just so critical to our ability to metabolize the stress and maintain our self-care practices. Okay, so now what we're going to do is this. We're going to move into an experience. Again, I like to try to make people laugh, right? You're like, okay, great, mindfulness. Well, let's do this. Get me calm already. I know. But guess what? It is a training. The more that you train awareness into your interior world, the quicker it becomes. It becomes actually habit. So here's what I'm going to invite us to do. And now remember, as teachers, don't we say this all the time? You got to have a dynamic mindset, not a fixed mindset. You got to be open to new. We ask our kids to be open to all these new things. But then when I work with teachers and I'm like, all right, close your eyes. We're going to actually practice mindfulness. They're like, oh, really? Oh. So I'm inviting you to have a dynamic mindset. You can trust me. I'm a yoga and mindfulness and meditation teacher. I promise it will all be okay and it will be restorative. So let's actually practice mindfulness, because if we come at it simply just cognitively and we forget the body, everybody, we will miss it altogether. Mindfulness is all about being embodied and knowing what's happening inside your mind, your body, and your spirit, and not neglecting it. All right. So here's what I'd like you to do. Whatever seat you're sitting in, go ahead and push your body to the back so that your back is supported. If you don't have a back behind your chair, be careful. Just kind of get comfy. All right. I've got my eye on time, so you don't have to pay attention to anything. And so what I invite you to do now is this. This is the most important part of this hour, right here, right now. And what we're about to do, everybody, you cannot get this in pill form. You're going to wanna, but this is the heart of the work. And it's not hard. It just takes intention. And so now what I invite you to do is you've closed your eyes and you've settled back into whatever comfortable seat you're in. I invite your hands to just gently relax into your legs. Allow those legs to be soft. Again, depending where you're sitting. Sometimes, you guys, we sit with so much stress that our knees are tight, our bodies are rigid. And now the very first most important thing to do is this, is don't even try to meditate. We are not meditating. Don't try to do anything here. And please understand, you can't do this wrong. And so all I ask you to do is just drop your attention onto your chest. And that just means this. For the next couple breaths, just simply feel the chest go up when you breathe in and feel the chest go down when you breathe out. And let's get into this embodiment. This is where our well-being is. And we're not going to rush anything. Just let's keep breathing here. Again, all you have to do, this is mindfulness. It's paying attention to your breath without judgment. And now let's just keep breathing. But on each breath now, I want you to make it longer and like wider. So on your next inhale, I want you to feel like your lungs are like really like coming out like wings on your next inhale. And then now on your next exhale, I want you to feel how perfectly your body just pushes the air out. Let's do that 2 more times. Take the longest, slowest inhales of the day and the longest, slowest exhales of the day. Excellent. Now let's take your attention. This is how powerful your attention is. You can move it around, and wherever your attention goes, your energy goes. So take your attention now and bring it to the soles of your feet. You don't need to wiggle your toes or move your feet at all. But now I want you to imagine your attention just like light. It's like a beam of light, because your attention really is that to students. They crave your full undivided attention. And why shouldn't they? You are awesome. They want to connect with you. So like take that full attention, that light, and bring it to your feet. And now very, very slowly, just start to drift your attention up your ankles. And now start to slide it up your calves and your shins. Again, all you're doing is noticing. You're not even trying to feel anything. Just notice. And now draw your attention to your knees. And again, just notice them as well. These joints are so beautiful that if they break, our doctors sometimes don't even know what to do with them, but yet we forget. We forget how hard they work for us. Nice and slowly take your attention now right up those thighs. Feel the bottom, feel your body trusting whatever chair you're sitting on. It's fully relaxed. And now take your attention and put it at the base of your spine. There's a little baby S curve, you guys, at the base of your spine, because if your spine was straight, it would break. This is a great metaphor in our life as teachers. We've got to be S curvy. We've got to be supple. So nice and slow now, take your attention, that beam of light, and just move it up your spine and just notice how your back feels. Good. Keep moving that attention. Now bring it to your shoulders, and now allow your attention to just wash down your arms. So notice your biceps and your triceps. Again, just notice those elbows. Just notice those forearms and your wrists. And now I'd like you to feel your hands. Just notice if they're hot or cold, sweaty, dry. Good. Now take that attention and now move it right back up those wrists, right back up those forearms to those elbows. We'll draw it all the way back up to those shoulders. Now wash your body down across your chest. And now I want you to feel 2 breaths here. Again, that breath was there the whole time, you guys, but isn't it interesting? Until we notice it, we don't feel it. So just 2, 3 deep breaths here. Now draw your attention right up to that neck and to your jawline. I actually want you to create a little bit of space between your bottom and your top teeth. Chances are good your jaw was tight. Draw your tongue away from your teeth if it's pushing. We hold so much stress in our body, everybody. Good. Now notice your nose and notice the breath coming in and going out. It's super, super subtle, but can you notice the cool air going in on the inhale? And can you notice the warm air coming out? Try it 2 times. Good. Now take your attention up those cheekbones. Move it up to your eyebrows. And now feel your eyelids just softly draped over your eyes. Notice your temples and your forehead. And now take your attention, just put it right on the very tippy top of your head. How does the head feel here today? Good. Your body is always communicating with you. Now take your attention and now just drop it right back to that breath in the chest. Good. And on your next inhale and on your next exhale, I want you to recall that intention that you had. And that intention was for how you were being for the rest of our time. And now I want you to actually now set an intention for how you want to move through the rest of your day. We're not done yet. Don't leave. But when our session is over, how does taking this time to get centered and still and connected, how do you now want to be when work is done for the day until you put your head on your pillow tonight? Just set your intention. How do you want to be after this? Go take a nice deep inhale here. And then on your exhale, go ahead and wiggle those fingers, wiggle those toes, and just allow those eyes to pop back open. And come on back. That is mindfulness. So again, you're learning about mindfulness, but unless we're being it and doing that for ourselves, giving ourselves the same quality attention we gift so willingly to others. If we miss putting it back here, the instrument, our heart, it gets corroded. And then we disconnect from our calling. And then, like that initial picture that I showed you from Ginger, we show up just in ways that people know we're not well. And so here's what I want to, if you wouldn't mind, throw up in the body, or I'm reading the title, throw up in the chat, not literally throw up. I realize, as a middle school teacher, I learned there's so many words you should not say in front of middle schoolers. Titillating's one, just an aside. There's so many. So throw up. If you could please put in the chat, what did you notice during that body scan? Just what's one thing about your body, your mind? Just what did you experience? What did you notice? Middle school Mary. You guys, this body scan, what we just did there, is backed by science. Good. Thank you, Bridget. Yeah. So Bridget noticed tenseness. Great, Bridget. That's your body's navigation system talking to you. And it's so happy you're paying attention, because Bridget, your body's going to get your attention either with little things, a little bit of tension, or some more bigger dis-ease in the body. Our body wins all the time. Our body will always tell us what we need. We just have to be listening. Good. Muscles in your face. Thank you, Giovanni. I know, right? We get so total calm. Yes, thank you, Lori. I'm so glad you didn't fall asleep. I always lose teachers whenever I do. And that was a quick one. When I'm doing my training, we lay on the floor and we do one for 30 minutes. People fall asleep all the time. Good. Yeah, you're posturally. Thank you. You guys, here's what the science says. Body scans ground our energy. It calms our parasympathetic nervous system. It decreases insomnia, and it changes our relationship with chronic emotional stress. As teachers, this is critical. If we are not sleeping, we are not restoring our physical bodies. And you guys, we cannot do the metabolization of stress, which we're going to do next, if our bodies are chronically tired and unhealthy and unwell. Before we do that, though, I want to always put this up. Many people have such, there's so many myths of meditation. Here's what I just want to debunk and demystify. Meditation is not about stopping thoughts. It is impossible. If you can find the off switch of your thoughts, please let me know, because I've not found it yet. What I can do, though, is not believe everything I think. And meditation and mindfulness, which you just did, paying attention in a particular way with awareness and intention, right, helps me to not cling to thoughts that I don't want to think. It allows me to let them just float on by. People think that they don't have the meditation gene. You guys, what you just did is as common to you as breathing. It's possible. It is not selfish to reconnect with yourself and restore yourself so that you can then give from others. I once heard this quote. I don't know who said it, but I loved it. And she said this: if you give to others from a point of depletion, you make them a thief. They are taking from you what you need. I don't know about you, but I love my students and my children and my inner circle too much to make people thieves for taking something that I need to do for myself. It's not an escape from reality. Mindfulness and meditation couldn't be more about being in reality without judging it, right? Here's also what we know. I'm going to keep giving you the studies. Meditation, what we just did, which is just taking your attention and bringing it here and now, decreases your cortisol. High levels of cortisol, you guys, will corrode the telomeres on your protective gaps of your DNA. When your telomeres get corroded by stress and cortisol and adrenaline, it leaves you susceptible to illness and aging. No, I don't want to both get COVID and then look 20 years older. This is why I meditate. I'm not kidding. I actually meditate. This is a whole nother thing, but I have very high ACEs scores, adverse childhood experiences. So truly, this might be a very personal share, but I'm happy to share where this work comes from. Having survived profound trauma, the triggers, the stressors of the day in my everyday life, especially as a teacher, do trigger personal traumas that are really hard to pay attention to and work through. I meditate every morning and every night for only 5 minutes, and that's just focusing on my breath. And when I do it, I repeat this simple mantra, which is, I am safe. Nothing can hurt me now. I am safe. Nothing can hurt me now. And that calms my mind and my body. So meditation enhances healthy sleep, improves immune function, and decreases inflammation. So here's what we know. This is number 2 point of what is mindfulness. Mindfulness is intention. It's also awareness. Where are you choosing to put your attention, right? And it's paying attention and knowing that where we put our attention matters. Here's what I learned in my research with teachers. And then we're going to do another practice. Self-awareness, emotional resilience, and self-compassion are the 3 core competencies of teaching from a place of well-being. Teachers said this, Jen, when I kept practicing that breath work you taught me, it helped me to be aware of what I needed. It helped me to regulate my emotions, and it helped me to be kinder to myself and others. And over and over and over, this is what teachers said was the most important thing. To help them be well, using mindfulness, using awareness, using emotional resilience. Okay, now let's shift gears just for a second because we're going to do something really fun. This is mindfulness. This is a part of mindfulness that we call cognitive behavioral therapy. So you're going to hear me say this. Mindfulness is all about mind work because if that thinker, I call her my inner roommate, she's a problem and she is a pill. My inner roommate. I'll say that again. She is a problem and she is a pill. So I've learned how to pay attention to my inner commentary a little, like with a lot more compassion. We're going to do an exercise right now called cognitive behavioral therapy, where we're going to learn how to work with the thoughts in our mind as we perceive stressors. But the reason why we did the guided body scan first was because mindfulness is all about embodiment and then working with the mind. It's a both and, right? In the chat, write down your number 1 biggest stressor right now as a teacher. Just one. Don't only pick one. In the chat or someplace, what is your number 1 biggest stressor? The unknown. Yes, grading. Thanks, Queen. I know, right? Yeah. Grading. Yep. Thank you. Yes, the workload. Thanks, Katie. Money. Yes. Always something around that. Grading. And is it grading because there's just the load of it? Like there's just so much and it takes so long, right? If so, yes. Uh-huh. They can feel your stress. Thank you, Ali. Yeah, personally right now, I've got 27 15-page philosophy papers to grade. So I'm feeling you to get everything done. Thank you, Lori. Okay. So we did the body work of mindfulness, which is what is our intention? Where are we grounding? Why are we here? Why are we doing what we're doing? We did the awareness work. Well, now let's talk about what we know about resilience and how mindfulness helps us with resilience. Here's how, everybody. The things that are your highest stressors. Here's the deal. Yep, end of semester student success. Thank you. Absolutely. We care so much about our students. Here's the deal. If you perceive a stressor as a threat, it will corrode your capacity to work through the trauma or through the stressor or through the trigger. Mindfulness is all about seeing what frames are seeing. See those sunglasses there? That ability, you guys, to do that breath work, that's going to be the number 1 strategy. If you forget everything from our hour together, all you need to remember is this: connect with the breath. It will always guide you to see, what am I thinking and what am I feeling? The moment that we see what you all just listed as not a threat, but as a challenge, because let's face it, many of you have probably been teaching for decades. You've always gotten your grading done. Am I right? Everything you're stressed about, you've always traversed. So it's a challenge. So let's talk about this. Always. Thank you, Terry. Oh my goodness. I swear this is kombucha in here. This is also a great protective immunity builder, not beer. Thank you, Terry. You're right, always. You guys, healthy stress, we need stress. Stress is motivational. It focuses our energy. It's meant to be short-term. It energizes and improves joy. Grading. Let's think about this, everybody. I don't know about you, but it is a big burden for me. But you know what? I love it. It's when I connect one-on-one with students and I actually get into their work and can give them really good feedback. Here's what we know about toxic stress. If you see all those stressors as something that's a threat and that you won't be able to do it, it will depress and deplete your energy. It will debilitate you and it diminishes your joy. And so now here's what we're doing. This is a mindfulness activity where we're going to focus on intention and awareness. So take a minute to just like take in, and I'm very mindful of time. We are doing great on time. We're kind of just moving through body experiences, mind experiences, pulling you in. This is what teachers in my study said. They said, Jen, now this is what I call the infinite well-being model. And here's what I conceptualized as an image of what teacher well-being looks and feels like. Based on all of their stories and 4 years of research, here's what we discovered. Teachers, can you all see okay, thanks, Cindy. Teachers who didn't know how to use mindfulness, awareness, and attention to come into their bodies would burn out. They would see stress as a threat, and they would just spin out of control because they wouldn't know how to cope with re-perceiving it. They didn't know that they could use their breath to ground their bodies. Look here. The plumb line of well-being for teachers is the breath. The core of mindfulness is the breath because it allows you to know what your intention is, what your awareness is. When teachers focused on their breath, they reconnected with their purpose or their calling, which you already talked about, their core values as a teacher, and then they used their imagination and their thoughts to work for them and not against them. And then here's what they said. Oh my gosh, Jen, I saw the problem as the portal, the reason to go inside myself, check with what I wanted and what I needed, re-perceive what I was thinking. And then what they said is this, then this loop right here was the byproduct. They're like, I went out into my teaching and then I was more compassionate. I was more present. Oh my gosh, this works. So now what I invite you to do is this. I want you to think of your stressor. And this is meant, I'm a reading teacher and a writing teacher. And I would also always do these quick writes or quick thinks with my students. And I want to do one now with you to show you that cognitive behavioral therapy, this capacity to see where our thoughts are derailing, is so critical to our well-being and mindfulness. So take your stressor. And now right now, I want you to think about how when you perceive that stressor as being a threat, how does it make you feel? And just, just pull it up in your body. When you're like grating, oh, okay. Now I want you to think about your purpose as a teacher. Remember that purpose? You wrote it out, your calling. Okay. Now I want you to think about what's one emotion that feels slightly better about the stressor that you could muster up feeling now that you remember what your calling is as a teacher. Oh, that's right. I meant to help them. So I actually want you to feel just a little lighter emotion in your body in response to that stressor. And now what we're going to do is this, swipe your attention way up here to where it says imagination. And now I want you to think this, and I want you to write it down. I want you to write this down. What is one slightly better thought you can think about your stressor right now that provides more hope and clarity than it does depression and overwhelm? And if somebody wants to throw into the chat an example of the way that they're rethinking, restoring that stressor, that would be awesome. For me, it would be about grading because I am too, like I said, sitting with 15 or 27, 15-page papers, which is, this is my greatest gift as a teacher, is when I connect with my students one-on-one, and I'll always get it done. So again, write down, with your primary stressor, what is one slightly better thought that helps you to engage that stressor in a way? Excitement. Thank you, Lynn. What about this? And I love this. It's a Joan of Arc quote. I'm not scared. I was born to do this. This is what I was called to do. The very thing that's stressing me out often tends to be our greatest point of calling for our students. So thinking that one thought that's slightly better. You are not alone, Bridget. Thank you for mentioning that. You are absolutely not alone. And Mary, when we create these spaces, this reminds us of that. So I'm mindful of our 2-minute time frame because nothing stresses teachers more than going over time. I'm mindful. I will land this plane, Mary. You know I will. Okay. Here's what we've learned so far. One core component of mindfulness is intention. every single moment when you're feeling dizzy, stop yourself and sit yourself down, literally, and say, what is my intention? First things first. What's the one thing I have to do right now? The second is check how you're seeing, check what goggles you have on and how you're framing up your stressor. Okay. And then the third, now I'm going to move past that other slide because we already did it. The third core component, everybody, is attitude. These are the three core elements. If someone says, what's mindfulness? You'd say, oh, that's easy. That's intention, that's awareness, and that's attitude. So now here's what I invite you to do is this. Here's another takeaway strategy. I often say this, you guys, when your head hits the pillow tonight, I want you to try something. I want you to perseverate on the positive. I want you to perseverate on, I will get it all done. I've gotten it all done every stinking semester. I am going to get it done. And then I want you to perseverate on all the good you did in your job today. And so what I invite you to do right now in our last couple moments is this. This is called HEAL, Hardwiring Happiness. Brain science, everybody, brain science. I would like you to close your eyes. I know if you're like, oh, geez, all right. Yeah, no, close your eyes, but stay with me. I just simply want you to pull up in your body a positive experience you had today. A super simple positive moment today. Allow your mind and body to go back to that moment. So that's the first part of healing. Have a positive experience. The E is to enrich it. That feeling that you felt in that moment, everybody, I want you to imagine like sinking into it. Feel that feeling again. Your body remembers it. And now the A is to allow it to absorb inside of you. So now what I invite you to do is this, keep steeping in the goodness, because I know you steep in the stress. Keep steeping in the goodness. This is attitude, or what I also say, no tension. Allow that feeling, that positive feeling, to just work its way in your body and in your cells, and just hang out here for just 4 more seconds. And then when you're ready, allow those eyes to open. Mary, what I'm going to do, I know you're recording this, but I could provide some of these resources. That's called the HEAL experience. If you look up Dr. Rick Hansen, he has some guided meditations on hardwiring happiness. But hardwiring happiness, again, is just knowing to do it. So that's there for you. And then I'm just leaving you with our final reminders. You were called to this profession. And as John O'Donohue says, this is my favorite book, Walking in the Pastures of Wonder. He says this, to be born is to be chosen. You are not accidentally in the world. You were sent here because there is something special that only you can do that could not be done by someone else. One of the wisdoms of living a full life is to try to sense what it is that you were sent here to do and to let the hindrances that block you from that fall away so that you can claim completely the life that was so generously offered to you. So Mary, thank you for the opportunity to connect with everybody, to remind them how special and sacred their well-being is, and that we can't do this without you, and that with intention, awareness, and no tension, we got this. We were born for this. This is what we've been in training for. You're just going to have to hop on, Mary, because I'll keep talking.
Yep. Thank you. Nope. I just want to say thank you so much for doing this with us today, Jen. Yeah. It's been fantastic. And thank you everyone for attending. And we did record, so we will distribute the recording link to everyone that was registered. So thank you for that.
Awesome.